Okay, so getting back into our coverage over Alan Davis' run on Excalibur, as we continue our coverage over the X-Men, we actually pick up with issue number 48 as the first chapter for today's video. Now, this is going to be Alan Davis bringing in a very interesting concept, the idea of the opposite of the Phoenix, the anti-Phoenix. And you'll see what I mean as we go through today's video. But getting into the opening pages of today's video, we actually pick up with a new character known as Ferran. Now, Ferran is going to be really important for this story arc alone, and really other story arcs down the road. But when it comes to Ferran, apparently he is destined to go to battle against the anti-Phoenix. And so this is Alan Davis bringing in a new concept in the world of Marvel Comics, the opposite of the Phoenix. Now, apparently, once he is able to actually defeat the anti-Phoenix, he's now supposed to become the host of the actual Phoenix. Now, let's not forget, the current host of the Phoenix is actually Rachel Summers. And so now we're kind of left to believe in the possibility that she may lose the powers of the Phoenix. But now we can shift our focus over to Excalibur. Now, when it comes to our heroes, let's not forget, at the end of our last video, Kitty Pryde and Alistair Stewart were at a dig site, and apparently they had found some kind of chamber. And the problem was they had no way to actually reach the chamber. And so as we dive into today's video, we do see the rest of Excalibur arriving to kind of find a way into the actual chamber. Now, their main goal is to use the powers of Kitty Pryde to phase through the ground to hopefully reach the actual chamber, and use the power of the Phoenix to hopefully guide Kitty Pryde into the right direction. But this is going to lead into some major problems. You see, once you have the two ladies being able to get inside the chamber, reality changed around them, and really around Rachel, because as soon as they get inside the chamber, Kitty Pryde collapsed. Now, you do have Rachel try to wake her back up, except Kitty Pryde seems to be dead. And then you have Rachel realize that she's no longer in the main Marvel universe, that instead she's now in the Days of Future Past universe. Because remember, that's the timeline that she came from. She only came to the past to hopefully change the future. But unfortunately, that future has now broke away into its own timeline. Either way, she now believes that she's back in her timeline, and she's kind of freaking out. But then reality changes again around her, to the point where she's now at the Hellfire Club, at the point in time where she had almost killed off Selene, but she was stopped by Wolverine, except this time, at this moment, it's Wolverine telling her, no, go ahead, kill that person off. What is stopping you? Now, Rachel remembers that moment, that Wolverine was able to stop her, to actually help her from not becoming a true killer. But you have Rachel realize that this is all wrong, that for some strange reason, reality is changing around her. And that is the moment where... But then she's confronted by a random character. Now, this character at first tells Rachel that he was trying to test her to see if she was an evil person, but realized that no, she's good, but her mind is just too fragile. And so because of that, she cannot hold on to the powers of the Phoenix. But he also says that he is the rightful host of the Phoenix, so go ahead and hand that power over to him. Now, Rachel remembers what Brian told her. It really is a callback to our last video. You see, when it came to Brian Braddock, he learned that Excalibur actually came together to fight against a person down the road, a powerful foe. The problem is they have no idea who that foe could possibly be. But either way, when it came to Merlin and Lady Roma, they went out of their way to set up different events to make sure that Excalibur actually came together. And so for Rachel, she believes this powerful character right now could be that person they're supposed to stop together. Now, for the rest of Excalibur, they're freaking out because they have not heard back from Kitty Pryde nor Rachel Summers. And so now they're trying to use their different abilities as a way to dig their way down to the actual chamber. Except when they are able to make a hole to the chamber, well, the Anti-Phoenix is able to escape out into the open. Now, as soon as it does that, Furon appears, and when he does appear, well, it now begins the battle between him and the Anti-Phoenix. And let's not forget that he told us that he was supposed to defeat the Anti-Phoenix, but also be able to become the host of the actual Phoenix. Either way, their battle does begin. But while you have our heroes trying to jump in and help out Furon, well, unfortunately, they're then confronted by creatures that had just popped out of the ground. Now, our heroes are unable to do any kind of damage to these creatures at all until Kylun was able to jump in and actually help them. Now, when it comes to Kylun, he does recognize the type of magic that was actually used to bring these creatures to life. Now, for Kylun, we have to remember that even though he is from this earth, when he was a young boy, he was on accident teleported over to another reality, better known as Earth 148. Now, in that reality, he was able to be married to a princess, but the problem was the world was taken over by a character known as Necrom. And in that reality, he fought Necrom for many years and learned all the different kind of magic that he uses over there. Now, Necrom was able to escape into the main Marvel universe, and so you had Kylun follow him into this reality. And so that explains how he was able to recognize the type of magic that was used to bring those creatures to life. But after that, you have our heroes being able to regroup. Now, you do have Furon get very upset with Excalibur because it does seem like they're more concerned with Necrom rather than the Anti-Phoenix. And really because most of the team was not in the chamber alongside with Rachel Summers once she had learned that it was the Anti-Phoenix. And so once she was able to catch them up, they realized that their main focus may have to be right now the Anti-Phoenix. Now, when it comes to Furon, he does get very upset with Rachel Summers. And here's the reason why. Because again, he was supposed to be the host of the Phoenix. He believes that he is the rightful host. But the problem is, she's the host right now, and he cannot believe that she was chosen by the Phoenix to be the host. Either way, you have Furon kind of join Excalibur to hopefully find the Anti-Phoenix. And you have Rachel say, let's go back to the lighthouse to find a way to actually track it. And so you have Excalibur on the way home to their lighthouse. Now, on the way home, we do learn a little bit more about Kylun and what is his mutant ability. And we do learn that he is able to reproduce any sound that he had heard. Now for him, that is a very useless power out in the field. But you have Captain Britain say, actually, you know, you are a very skilled fighter, and those skills do cover up your weakness. And so listen, you're not really, useless. You're actually a good person to have along with the rest of the team. Now, when the heroes arrive at the lighthouse, they see all these different robotic bodies outside the lighthouse. And this is a callback to the tail end of our last video, where we saw Widget being able to make his own kind of body. For many books, he was just a head. But then at the end of our last video, he began to create a body for himself. Now, when our heroes land into the lighthouse, they realize that he had made many bodies for himself. But as they get deeper and deeper into the cave that's underneath the lighthouse, they see more and more advanced bodies that was made by Widget. And then they find him in the most advanced body out of all of them, except right when they do find Widget, you have Rachel freeze in place. And the reason why, because, well, the Anti-Phoenix had found Necrom. Now, we're going to learn a whole lot more about the history of the Anti-Phoenix and Necrom at a later chapter in this video. but we do see the Anti-Phoenix be absorbed by Necrom. And with that happening, Rachel realized that sooner or later Necrom is going to come after her to actually absorb the power of the Phoenix. And so now our heroes must get ready to go to war against Necrom. But as we dive into Excalibur issue number 49, we do pick up with FI6. Now, FI6 is a government agency that we had talked about in our last video. Now, here's a catch though. This is going to be the last time ever in Marvel Comics, and here is the reason why. So they had detected the powers of Necrom, and they're kind of like, hey, you know what? We found him, and currently he's in some kind of abandoned warehouse. Hopefully we can move in and get him before things go crazy. The problem is, as soon as their soldiers go inside the actual warehouse, things do get crazy because you have Necrom being able to kill off all their soldiers in a matter of seconds. And their second team outside the building were also killed off in a matter of seconds. It really shows how powerful Necrom has truly become. Now, when it comes to their leader, Inky, he's also killed off as well. That's why I said this is going to be the end of FI6. Now, they do have a mutant on their team, and that would be Micromax. And when it comes to Micromax, he has the ability to change his size, to get big or get small. But the problem is, he does not stand a chance going up against Necrom. And really, at first, we're left to believe that Necrom is going to kill him, but Micromax was able to get away just barely. But you didn't have Necrom say, you know what, fine, I'm done with all these people. It's now time for me to find the Phoenix. But getting back over to our heroes, they know that Necrom is coming. And really, you have Rachel inform everybody what he just did to FI6. And so our heroes are very concerned about Necrom. But you have Ferran get very upset with Rachel because he kind of blames her for releasing the Anti-Phoenix that had just fused with Necrom. But you have everyone say, hey, she had no idea what she was doing. Get off her back. Now, in the middle of their argument, out of nowhere, you didn't have Kang appear. But this is a Kang from a different reality. And really, you have Excalibur from that reality also appear as well, fighting against Kang. But then they disappear just like that. Now for Kylun, he's kind of like, that was pretty wild. But you have our heroes tell him like, hey, those kind of things happen a lot around the lighthouse. You just gotta get used to it. Either way, you didn't have our heroes move on because now they have to get ready for Necrom. And so while you have half the team go inside the lighthouse to use the computers to hopefully locate Necrom, you didn't have Captain Britain realize that he is unable to fit through the usual doorways like he did before he left for Otherworld. And he believed that when it came to TechNet, when they did some, repairs around the lighthouse, they most likely made the place a tad bit too small for him to walk through the actual doorways. But you have Kitty and Nightcrawler believe it could be something else, especially when he tries to use the computer to find Necrom. He destroys the entire keyboard. And so the Kitty and Nightcrawler, they are wondering if Lady Roma had removed the jinx that she had placed on him as a way to make sure that he would always be near Excalibur. Because remember that Lady Roma and Merlin went out of their way to form Excalibur, setting up different things to make sure those heroes came together. But you have Nightcrawler wondering if they're still being used in some kind of way by Merlin and also Lady Roma. Now, the other half of the team went into the kitchen to, make a snack for everybody. Except when they get into the kitchen, they are then teleported into another reality, to another kitchen in a different reality, where they're being confronted by a very weird creature. Now, when it comes to Sarai, she freaks out because she has no idea what is going on. And so she tries to blast the creature. But when she does use her powers, our hero then teleported back into their own reality and destroyed their own kitchen. Now, the team who are upstairs trying to use the computer to find Necrom, they hear the explosion and go downstairs. But the problem is that team, most of the heroes came down except for Nightcrawler, because Nightcrawler, he was teleported into another reality. Now, in this reality, at first, it's Nightcrawler believing it's his own, but possibly the far future. And the reason why, because he finds the dead body of Megan and his own dead body as well. The dead bodies have been there for a very long time. But either way, he realized that this is not his reality or the future of his reality, that this is another reality. Either way, you have Nightcrawler being able to teleport back into his own reality. Now, once he's able to get back to his own reality, the main Marvel universe, he tells the rest of the team that they should probably fight Necrom on the outside of the lighthouse, because right now they have seen too many things happen in a very short period of time while being at the lighthouse. And if they want to make sure they defeat Necrom, they need a better battlefield, better than the lighthouse at the moment. But once you have our heroes being able to regroup down the cave of the lighthouse, they then see more and more phantoms. Now, the phantoms are basically people who are appearing left and right from different realities, but then also disappear left and right as soon as they do appear. Now, for our heroes, they believe it has to be Widget, because he does have the ability to open up portals to allow people to travel into other realities. But you then have our heroes realize that maybe it's not Widget. But then you have Rachel Summers be confronted by Necrom, who now holds on to the power of the Anti-Phoenix. And you have Necrom say, no, it's him doing all of this. See, what he's doing right now is trying to merge all different realities into one. And if that happens, well, as we all know, all realities are going to be destroyed. But he does tell Rachel that if she wants to save her reality, this Earth reality, she must hand over the power of the Phoenix. The other realities, they'll all die. But this one right here will survive if she hands over the power of the Phoenix. But now we jump over to Lady Roma and Saturnine. Now, these two ladies are technically the guardians of the Omniverse, the entire multiverse of Marvel Comics. But the problem is they realize that something big is happening on the main Marvel universe, but other realities are now collapsing into one another, and that is a huge problem. But that's not the big thing about the ending of this chapter. The big surprise is that Merlin appears. Now, Merlin is the father to Lady Roma, and the thing was, he died, but apparently he's alive again. He says, listen, I came back from the dead to see my final move finally be made for this big game I started many years ago. And so as we dive into Excalibur issue number 50, we do see Necrom continuing to kind of make threats towards Rachel Summers, to tell her to go ahead and hand over the power of the Phoenix over to him. Now, of course, she's not going to do that at all. And really, we kind of find out that this is not Necrom really here, that this is just a mental image that he has sent over to kind of torture the mind of Rachel Summers. Either way, you do have Kai Lun being able to get rid of the actual image of Necrom. Now, after doing that, you have Ferran say, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and fight Necrom by myself. Now, of course, you have the other members of Excalibur telling him that is a bad idea because he almost lost to Anti-Phoenix. There's no way that he would be able to take down Necrom with the power of the Anti-Phoenix with his own. And so you have Ferran not listening, and he just walks away. Now, for our heroes, they do realize that this can't not be Necrom, who's right now combining all these different realities together, causing all these time problems at the moment, that these things were happening before he had appeared, which honestly, that is correct, because remember, in the early days of Excalibur, our heroes would just walk around their lighthouse, and sometimes walk into another reality. And so you then have our heroes realize it has to be Rachel Summers. She's the reason why time is being messed with. Because remember, Rachel comes from the future. She came back in past, or to the past, sorry, to hopefully change her future. But of course, she could not do that. And so this Kitty Pryde saying, no, Rachel has the ability to manipulate time. It's her. She's the reason why time is all strange at the moment. But getting over to Ferran, he does go confront Necrom, who had arrived at the lighthouse. Now, like we saw earlier, the kid cannot take down anybody at all by himself, but he is very confident in himself, believing that he can actually take down Necrom. Now, you have Kai Lung try to help out as well, but of course, Kai Lung cannot do much either. Now, like I said earlier at the very beginning of this video, where we saw Necrom take out F56, I did say Micromax, a mutant who works for F56, survived, and so he does reappear to help out Excalibur to take down Necrom. But of course, Necrom is just too powerful for our heroes to actually take down on their own, without the help of the rest of the Excalibur team. Now, this is the point where we see Alan Davis begin to wrap up the first story arc on his run on Excalibur. You see, you do have the main team of Excalibur inside the lighthouse. Now, you have Megan change into her true form. Now, while in this true form, she now has the ability to see life energy. And we had talked about life energy in our last video, but she didn't realize that all the life energy is going towards Brian, kind of explaining why he's currently growing in size. Now, let's not forget that Lady Roma and also Merlin had basically did different things to make sure that Excalibur would come together. And here is the reason why. Because Nightcrawler realized if they are able to merge into one body, of course Captain Britain, then most likely they can stop the convergence of all realities coming together. But on top of that, they might have a way to actually stop Necrom as well. And so you have all our heroes go into Captain Britain and then they disappear to hopefully stop Necrom and the convergence as well. Now, I want to jump back over to Merlin, Lady Roma, and also Saturnine, because this is where we learn everything that's going on when it comes to Merlin and also Necrom as well. So you have Merlin tell us that many years ago, he had did a gambit extending back to when he was actually a student of magic, a student to Necrom. The original Ferran was also a student of Necrom as well, and it was Necrom who discovered the energy matrix. Now, we had talked about the energy matrix before. It's basically the source of the power of all Captain Britons in all realities across Marvel's multiverse. But while doing that, he also discovered the doorways in Otherworld as well that leads into other dimensions. Now remember, when it comes to Otherworld, it does have access to all realities across Marvel's multiverse. On the moment that you had all the realities aligned, you had Ferran tell the Phoenix to project the tower across time, which would later become Excalibur's lighthouse in all different realities. At that moment, Necrom also attacked Ferran, attempting to collapse all realities into one, and then absorb the energy, which would make him very powerful. But Ferran had the Phoenix Force on his side and fought off Necrom while Merlin had leapt into the Matrix. Instead of killing Ferran, Necrom ripped the Phoenix Force from him and left him powerless. He released part of the Phoenix Force, but used the rest along with some life energy to create the Anti-Phoenix before Necrom went into the multiverse to prepare, while Ferran spent the rest of his life awaiting the Anti-Phoenix before putting his power into the Earth. Merlin had harnessed the Matrix and used its power to create the Otherworld, and found Captain Britain Corps to police the multiverse and aid in the hunt for Necrom. And so that was his plan this entire time, to wait for the right moment to finally bring down Necrom. Now I want to jump back over to Kai Lun, and the reason why, because in our last couple of videos we had talked about the idea that Kai Lun was stuck in another reality for many years, but while being there he fell in love with a princess known as Satnine. The problem was Satnine died by the hands of Necrom, and Kai Lun sees her in this reality, but it's not really her. It's kind of like just a copy of her that Kai Lun seeing at the moment that Necrom is using against him. Now Kai Lun also realized that Necrom is a tad bit weak at the moment because the battle is taking a toll on him. Either way, you have Necrom realize that Excalibur had basically went into the multiverse to stop the convergence. And so you have Necrom leave the lighthouse to hopefully stop Excalibur. Now, I want to skip over a few parts to get into the actual battle between Rachel Summers and also Necrom. Now, this battle does go back and forth for a while, but let's not forget that when it came to Rachel earlier on in the story arc, she had decided to not use the powers of the Phoenix. And the reason why, because she was beginning to regain her memories of her past life from the Days of Future Past timeline. But now she realized she has no choice but to use the powers of the Phoenix as the way to take down Necrom. Now, these two characters, they travel across the universe. They go over to a dead planet and they do battle on that planet. But these two characters, they're going to go back and forth for a while. But you didn't have Rachel being able to actually take down Necrom once and for all. By using the full power of the Phoenix, she was able to get rid of Necrom to save the day. Now, after the battle, you do have Rachel Summers reappear. Now, when she does, she's wearing the outfit of the Phoenix. But our heroes have no idea why she's wearing the power of the Phoenix. Now, you have Merlin appear, and this is where you have Alan Davis begin to wrap up his first story arc, but kind of get us ready for his next story arc down the road. You see, once you have Merlin appear, he didn't tell our heroes that, well, he still has the power of the Matrix because it's right now hiding behind all the towers across all reality, including the one in Otherworld as well. Now, when it comes to Brian Braddock, he's still holding on to a lot of life energy. And so giving that life energy over to Megan, they were able to blast the tower in Otherworld, which of course then leads into all towers across the multiverse also being destroyed. And with that, Merlin now lost the power of the energy matrix, and he leaves upset at Excalibur. Now, with the lighthouse now being gone in the main Marvel universe, you now have our heroes move over to Brian Braddock's manor because the Braddock family had a lot of money, and so he had a nice house they all can move into for the time being. But we're kind of left to wonder if Excalibur is still being controlled by someone behind the scenes, and if they are, who? But what is next for our heroes? But this is where we are going to end today's comic book video, so please leave me a like down below and subscribe. But guys, see y'all next time. Later.